I'm Peter Thomas, and I'm here making a presentation for the North American Association of Hand Papermakers, and I'm showing you some of the equipment I've developed for my shop. I'm going to start with my water filter. I have an inline water filter. Now these you can buy anywhere in the hardware store, and that runs through all of my water. This has a cartridge that's for sediment. And then here I've made a second filter. It has an on-off switch and a quick release. And what I do when I'm filling the water for my vat or beaker. So this is the quick release for the faucet. I like to use these shower sprays that have a shower attachment because it helps cleaning things up. Then this hooks on here. You can see the features are, it has a shut-off valve. That's my water filter. This has a carbon filter in it. And then this pours the water into the vat, thus giving me, this is a carbon filter, so I get better filtered water for that application. This is the sink. It's made out of a shower pan. You can see the shower drain right here. I use this light grading material on top to keep the drain free to flow. You can see this item, which is a bit of plumbing that attaches to the strainer bag, which catches the pulp as it drains through. There's a second layer of sink down here that the water drains through to go out into the city drain. This machine is a hydropulper. It's used for beating the raw pulp halfway down to get it ready to go into the beater. It would be filled with water, and you can then the pulp would be added. This would be pre-dampened, and you can see it hinges so it moves. It has an on-off switch, and if you look inside, you can see it's got metal blades down there that spin. This is mounted on a motor mounted on a 5-gallon bucket. The design was developed by John Babcock, and this was made by Bob Brown here in Santa Cruz. Now at any point, if I have pulp that I need to drain the water out of for storage, for example, if I wanted to store this freshly beaten or freshly pulp, I would use a paint strainer bag. You all know about paint strainer bags. I just wanted to show you my trick for working with a paint strainer bag. I get this trash can from IKEA. I drained holes in the bottom so the water would drain out. And then I took a 5-gallon bucket and drilled holes in the side. Then all I have to do is put the paint strainer bag inside of the 5-gallon bucket, or inside of the IKEA trash can, inside of the 5-gallon bucket. And this holds the bag in place so you can fill it up with your pulp, and then it drains. Once it's drained, you can pull the bag out, twist it extra tight, and have your dry pulp. Once it's broken up, I leave it to set for a day so that it gets fully hydrated. Then I would carry the bucket of pulp into my Hollander beater. Alright, so once the pulp has been mixed in the hydropulper, I pour it into my beater. When I run my beater, I have an amp meter hooked into the wire, the plug. So I plug this into the amp meter. Once the pulp comes out of the Hollander beater, it's brought to the vat. It's diluted with water. The important things about a vat are that you can get your feet underneath the vat so that you can stand close to it, so that your body is well supported while you're making paper. But like you can on the internet see my ergonomics of hand paper making video that talks about the importance of making sure you can bend your knees while you're making paper and that your feet are under the vat. Your vat doesn't need to be too deep. It just needs to be deep enough that when you dip, you can get the mold all the way under and lift it up. This vat has a hog in the bottom, and this machine, it's like a paddle wheel of a paddle wheel boat. And when I turn it on, it rotates, and as it turns, it stirs the water. I know that you've all stirred water a lot. You know you spend an awful lot of time stirring water. This way you don't have to. Also, when the water's rotating like this, it aids in your production paper making because you only have to dip your mold in slightly and it throws the pulp onto it. So you don't actually have to go down and lift up. You just have to dip your mold in slightly and then you're ready to shake. This is my hydraulic couching table. They're available in auto parts stores, Harbor Freight. The thing that you need to make sure that why they're valuable is because you can lower the table down so that your couching is just at the right level. It's a little too high, and I can move it down. As you build your post up, you'll want to move it up again, so then you can bring it back, you can bring it up to the right level. So I'd remove the decal, set the mold down, lean it across, and couch. Once the post was built up, then I can use the hydraulic table to lift it up to the level of the press and slide it in. My press boards are made from a product called MDO, or sign painting board. It's plywood that has no voids and is paper covered on both sides. It's water resistant so that it doesn't buckle or leave any fiber residue into your felts. So it's an excellent material to use. Once the paper has been pressed and removed from the felts, then it's dried. And once it's dried, I sometimes use this dry mount press as a way of drying a single sheet of paper. And you could use anything here. I use this aluminum, I found it in a scrapyard. And what happens is aluminum, perforated plate, and felts. When the heat's on, the moisture is forced down into these cracks, and then if I have a fan, I can blow the moisture out so that it doesn't, the bottom felt just doesn't get soaking. And that's the value of the channelized something at the bottom. To dry my wet felts, I usually use these racks that I got from my friend Gangolf Ulbricht from East Germany, and they're made for print makers, and these are specifically for paper makers, and you can put your felts in them and hang them to dry. Before I had these racks that Gangolf made, I had made my own, and the way that I did that was I took clothespins and nailed them between these two pieces of wood with some spacers. This did the same job, but it's a little less handy because you have to squeeze the clothespin to open and close them. But this is certainly a way that you could make the same system for yourself. So if I have slow draining pulp, I use my sink as a vacuum table. I just remove this light grating so I get straight down to the sink part, to the drain part. I put a piece of, this is backpacking pad on. This is to create a vacuum. I would leave the decal on, and then I take a piece of plastic and set it on top. Then, instead of having the drain bag on this sink, I plug in the shop vacuum. Put it into the drain hole. And turn it on. This then will remove enough water that I can then couch the piece of paper without crushing it. Of course, as you look around my shop, you'll see many other little things hanging here and there that you wonder what they're good for. And they're all good for something. And they've all been things that I've figured out how to use, but they're things that you can figure out just as easily yourself. And I was just hoping that these different ideas that I've come up with might be helpful to you in setting up your own shop. Should you have any questions, don't hesitate to shoot me an email or give me a call. I'll be glad to discuss and give clarity as to how the things work after the conference is over. Thank you very much for attending my little session on how I built these different things for my studio and how I use them in my studio. And I hope you'll have a great rest of the conference.